All right, welcome, YouTube family. Welcome those of you that are live on Zoom today for our Friday night Bible study. We're still in the book of Genesis. We're looking at the third of the patriarchs, the life of Jacob, and he has an eventful life, very eventful. So we're going to be looking at some things today, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to get right into this. So we're looking at Father Jacob, and he's going to have some experiences today. Esau, rape, massacre, and the journey home. Can you say eventful? Quite eventful, right? So we left off last week with Jacob and Laban. Laban was angry with Jacob because he left with all of his flocks. He had tried to cheat Jacob. It was the con versus the supplanter last week. And the Most High warned Laban, don't say anything negative against this man. Be very careful. I've got his protection. I've got his back. And so they eventually last week, they reconciled. And so we're going to pick up there today in Genesis 31, verse 44. Now therefore come you, let us make a covenant, I and you, and let it be for a witness between me and you. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones and made an heap. And they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it, in this nice long word, right? Jagar Shahadutha, all right? But Jacob called it Galeed. Thank you, Jacob. All right. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and you this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed. And Mizpah, for he said, Yahweh watch between me and you when we are absent one from another. And Mizpah just simply means a heap of witness, right? Or a pillar of witness. So if you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me. Then Laban said to Jacob, here is this heap, and here is this pillar, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and this pillar to me for harm. So they're entering into a very serious covenant, and I guarantee the Most High is pleased with this, right? They're choosing the pathway of peace. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his brethren to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning, Laban arose and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Now it's time for Jacob to face Esau. And remember now, he was with Laban 20 years ago because he was on the run. Because Esau swore that when my father dies, Jacob gonna die that same day. And so he had to run for his life, and he spent now 20 years there with Laban, but now it's time for him to return home. And Jacob went on his way, and the angel of Elohim met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is Elohim's host. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. We're now in Genesis 32. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, thus shall you speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob said thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses and flocks and men servants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in thy sight. So he's trying to appease his brother Esau right now. This is why he has a servant to do all this for the purpose of bringing peace and not a sword upon his head, okay? And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, And also he comes to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Okay. So brother's a little nervous about that, and I think I will be too, because he does not have 400 men to fight against this brother. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. And he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and herds and the camels into 2 bands, and said, if Esau come to the one company and smite it, or kill it, right, destroy it, then the other company which is left shall escape. So in other words, he's going to divide them up. We'll give them a chance to see what's going to happen, and they're going to get a chance to run if they can. And Jacob said, O Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahweh, which said unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which you have shown unto thy servant. With my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother with the children. And you said, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came in his hands, and present a present for Esau's brother. So notice now, when he prayed based upon the promises that he had received from the Most High. So even though he's afraid, he still has an expectation that you said, Most High, that you're going to cause my seed to be like the stars of the sky and like the sand upon the seashore. So if Esau was to come and wipe me out today, then your word is no good. So he's coming to pray in confidence that the Most High's word is true. And so, sometimes we face some situations, and we can face some very trying and difficult times. But in those times, in those moments, it's very important to reflect upon the promises that the Most High make. And it's amazing when you're reading your scripture, sometimes you'll come across a promise. He may be talking to Jacob, he could be talking to Joseph, he could be talking to David, he could be talking to, any one of his children. He could be sharing things in the scriptures to them. And while he's speaking to them, it's almost like the spirit of the Most High will cause that logos word that's on the written page to become what is called a rhema. It's like a living word. And he'll speak that word to you saying, the same promise I made to David, right? The same promise I made to Joseph, the same promise I made to Abraham, I'm making this promise to you today. I am going to cause you to be blessed, son. And I can tell you, in my 45 years of serving him, there's been many times I've been going through situations, and his word has come alive to me in my difficult times. And I've been able to hold fast to that promise. And it was able to get me through the difficult time to the point where I was able to see his manifestation based upon what he promised me. And so I'm sharing these patriarchs with you, so you can learn how to operate the way they operated. They didn't have an easy way all the time. In fact, they often were faced with very difficult situations, but the Most High was always with them, and he brought them to the place that he said he would. So this is where Esau's at now. He's got 200 she-goat, 20 he-goat, 200 ewe lambs, and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their coat, 40 kine, and 10 bulls, 20 she-ass, and 10 foals. The brother got a serious flock, right, of animals with him, right? And he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, pass over before me, and put a space between the droves, from drove and drove. So he wanted to separate them by groups so that they'll be reaching his brother in separate, divided groups. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you, saying, whose are you? And where are you going? And whose are these before thee? Talking about all his flocks and stuff. Then you shall say, they be thy servants Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that follow the drove, saying, on this manner shall you speak unto Esau when you find him. So each leader of every group is going to come to Esau, and they're going to let him know, these are for you, Esau. You know, Jacob's coming up behind us, but he wanted to make sure he gave you this blessing. So what is he doing? He's trying to soften him up. He's trying to appease him. He's trying to show that he honors Esau. He's honoring you, brother. You know, he's not here to take anything away from you. He's here to add to you, to make you better. So he's trying to be a peacemaker. And he's taking, these flocks mean nothing if he's killed. So he'd much rather give him to his brother Esau, that his brother will spare him, spare his life and spare the children's lives. And say ye moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept me. So went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. You know, he's everything he's got, he's sending it over, his wives and everything. Then Jacob's going to have an encounter with the Most High. And Jacob was left alone. And there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go. This is Angel. He's telling him, man, you got to let me go, right? For the day breaks, and he said, I will not let you go except you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. Jacob, he replied. Your name will no longer be Jacob, he said, but Israel. For as a prince, you have power with Elohim and with men, and have prevailed. So this man has gone through some situations now. His name was Jacob, which means the supplanter, the trickster. But now he's going through these situations, and notice now he's experienced a touch in his thigh. It is his thigh now is out of joint. So now he's going to be walking with a limp for the rest of his life. And that limp represents his brokenness. You know, he's been living as a trickster his whole life. But now this represents the transforming place in his life where he is no longer going to be the trickster, but he's going to walk as a man of honor. And so he's going to be reminded of this moment because of this limp that he's going to be walking with for the rest of his life. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, your name. And he said, why is it that you ask about my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And so I do want to clarify. He wrestled with a representative of the Most High. It could have been an angel or whatever, but it was not the Most High, but it was not human. Okay, he was a representative of heaven. And so because he represented the Most High, this is why he says this here. I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. We certainly know that no man can see Elohim's face and live, but this was still a very powerful experience for him to be able to wrestle with the representative of the Most High and survive that situation, right? And as he passed over Penuel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. I mean, he was limping as he walked. Therefore, the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. So there was a muscle in his leg that shrank and would cause it to be out of joint. And so, like I said, he lived with that for the rest of his life. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. He divided the children unto Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto the two handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph in the hindermost part. And he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept, they cried. And I guarantee you that was not the the reunion that he thought he was going to experience. He hoped for it. He certainly prayed for it, but it was not what he expected. But you got to keep in mind now, even though they had a lot of strife between them, these brothers were twins. And it has been 20 years since Esau has seen his brother. And you know how sometimes you can have a strife between your siblings, and you can be very angry. But in the passing of time, you end up missing them, because I guarantee you, being twins, they were connected at the hip. And so, this is why Esau, his fury has passed. And when he was aware that his brother was coming home, he was actually looking forward to the moment. And that's why they're having this situation right now. This is beautiful that they were able to get beyond all the trickiness and all the stuff that he experienced, the loss of his birthright, the loss of his blessing, and just be happy to see his brother Jacob. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children, and said, "Who are those with you?" And he said, "The children which Elohim has graciously given thy servant." Then the handmaids came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near and bowed themselves. And she had her 6 kids with her. And I did this intentionally. And after came Joseph near, and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. Now, why did I give her the full shot? Because in Jacob's mind, she is the prize. Right? She is the main one. And you're going to see, even as this family grows, that the influence that she has with Jacob is going to impact the children. And we won't see that today, but you will see that in future lessons, how, because this is the one that he loved the most, it had an impact on the family structure, okay? And he said, "What mean thou by all this drove which I met?" And he said, "These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord." And Esau said, "I have enough. My brother, keep that y'all have to yourself. I don't need your animals. I don't need anything you're trying to give me, brother. I'm good, right? The Most High has blessed me, right? So you just go ahead and keep your stuff to yourself." And Jacob said, "No, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in your sight, then receive my present at my hand." Hundreds of animals he's given to his brother. He said, "Please receive it. For therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of Elohim, and thou wast pleased with me." He could ask for no more than that. The man that had sworn to kill him on the day that his father died is now smiling and hugging and kissing him, right? And with tears, is happy to see him. I guarantee you this is a blessed day for him to experience this day. So he said, "Man, you can take everything I got. I got my brother back," right? "Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because Elohim has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, "Let us take our journey, and let's go, and I will go before thee." And he said unto him, "My Lord," speaking to Esau, "know that the children are tender, and the flocks and the herds with young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die." So he's really not wanting to go with Esau. He knows that his future is separate from Esau, but he's content that they have reconciled. Okay, so, but he knows that they're not meant to dwell together. And so he's saying, "No, you just go ahead. I'm going to take my time. I've got these young folks with me. I got all this herd. We're just going to take our time and get there. Brother, you go ahead on your own. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according as a cattle that goes before me, and the children be able to endure until I come unto my Lord unto Seir." Esau said, "Let me now leave with thee, some of the folk that are with me. You know, I'm gonna leave some part of my army with you that they can kind of guard you, is what he's saying. And he said, what need of it? Let me find grace in thy sight, my Lord. And so I don't need your army. I'm good to go, brother. So Esau returned that day on his way unto Seir. I'm assuming he probably be thinking, you know, I don't know, he may change his mind. And if he leave his army with me, who knows, they may be on an assignment, you know, to take me out. You know, so he said, nah, you go ahead, your army, go your way, brother. If I can survive this day, I'm good, right? So you take the gift, you know, you take your men, you know, you go the direction, I'm gonna take my time, and we're gonna get to our destination. So he feels much better about that. Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth. So he had no intention of going to the same destination that Esau went. He detoured and went to a different location. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. And when he came from Padanaram and pitched his tent before the city, and he brought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it Elohai Israel. So this is one thing you notice about all three of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They always made these altars, and they were always acknowledging the Most High. You know, you won't see a lot of this after them because his sons were scoundrels. Okay, and you're gonna see that as we go forward in future lessons. But the patriarchs, they honor the Most High. But it's interesting, the further you get away from Abraham, you know, well, Isaac, you know, you don't see any error in him. You know, the scriptures don't really talk about any error in him. You know, he went forth and did everything that the Most High told him to do. He even, you know, did things that Abraham didn't do. Abraham, anytime there was famine, you know, he was always going to a different land. But Isaac was willing to stay behind and stay in the land when the Most High gave him that instruction to do that. And he blessed him, as we learned on last week, 100-fold during a time of famine, and became so great that he was even greater than King Abimelech and his whole nation. You know, so he was able to really see the blessing of the Most High because of his willingness to walk in faith and stay in the land even during a time of famine. But by the time you get to Jacob, you start seeing the trickster show up, you know, the scoundrel in him showing up, and he had to go through some things because of that. Because he sold being a trickster, he reaped, you know, meeting with a trickster in his uncle Laban, who changed his wages 10 times. And for that 20 years, brother didn't know what his life was going to end up being because he had to endure, you know, living with a scoundrel for a boss who changed his wages 10 times. But all three of them, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they always sought the Most High. They were always, every time they went to a new location, they were building altars and they were praying to the Most High. So you see that in their lives. But the next generation, you know, they're going to show a different side. You know, even though they were foundational to the building of the nation, they just did not always walk the way that the Most High wanted them to walk. And we're going to see even some of that today. Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and Shechem. We're in Genesis chapter 34 now. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, you can see him, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father, Hamor, saying, get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with the cattle in the field. And Jacob held his peace until they were come. Can you imagine hearing that your daughter is, you know, we just setting up camp. You know, we're trying to build a house. He didn't survive his brother. He's wrestled with an angel all night. He's gotten through all this stuff, right? He's finally got to a place. He's made the altar. He's prayed, and now he finds out his daughter. She goes out to just meet with some of the girls, trying to make some friends, and gets raped. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very wroth. They were very angry. And there's not a smile in none of you guys' face. They seeing blood, okay? Because he had wrought folly in Israel in laying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And these people know who they're messing with, right? And Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. I pray you give her to him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. He's trying to entice them with all the stuff that they got in this city, right? And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what you shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife. He's trying to be honorable, right? And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he has defiled Dinah, their sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. So they're holding fast to the circumcision, which is the covenant that the Most High made with Abraham. And all of these men have been circumcised. So that was a barrier. That was a true barrier. But it really goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. Because you got to understand, this was the making of a nation. You know, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and these 12 brothers, it's only 11 of them right now, but the 12th is coming. They represented the foundation of a nation. And so if they had made this covenant with Shechem and his father, they would have been swallowed up by this nation. You know, it's just 12 of them. And so if they had, intermingled with this nation, I guarantee you that was not the plan of the Most High. I see that hand.
But like you said, when you finish, that was not the plan of the Most High. The Most High never wanted them to intermarry with those nations because they were pagans.
Correct.
That was the main thing. And the brothers knew that when they made that request.
Right.
They knew what they were doing.
There's no doubt. That's why I said in the previous verse that they're operating deceitfully. What you got, bro?
Hey, what is pagan? I don't know what that is.
Okay, that's a great question, right?
What is pagan? Yeah.
A pagan is a person who follows and worships a false god. That's it in a nutshell. It is a person that is worshiping a false god. It could be a god that they made with their hand. It could just be some,
worshiping sun, worshiping
worship animals. Some, in Egypt they worship animals. So anything that's not the Most High is pagan.
Okay.
And so if you, some of the early lessons we talked about, how paganism originated from Nimrod, right? So all the nations on the earth, any nation that they come in contact with is going to be a pagan nation, period. There is not a nation on the planet at this time that is serving the one true Elohim but Jacob at this point. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the only ones that are serving the true Elohim. That's a great question, though. But in this, we will consent unto you. If you will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. So this is the proposal that the children of Israel are making with this man and his son Shechem. But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, we'll take our daughter and we're going to get up out of here. So you can see, the look on their face, like, what are they going to choose to do? And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he said he had delighted in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. So they consider him to be honorable, even though he's a rapist. Just kind of letting you know what kind of people that they're dealing with. The scripture said that he was more honorable than all of his father's house. So is this a people that the Most High would want them to unite with? I don't think so. I don't think so. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came unto the gate of their city and communed with the men of their city, saying, these men are peaceable with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. And watch this next statement he makes. Only herein will the men consent unto us, for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Why should we do this? Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. So they're saying a benefit. They're going to take this girl, they're going to get a chance to trade and eventually end up with their flocks and stuff. Hey, fellas, let's do this thing. We got opportunity here. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem, his son, hearken all that went out of the gate of his city. And every male was circumcised. All that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass. You had a question?
Yeah. Well, what is so important about circumcised?
What's so important?
Right. Well, here's the thing. When the Most High made a covenant with Abraham, he said, and this shall be a sign unto us of the covenant that we're entering into, that every male among you shall be circumcised. On the 8th day, let every man among you be circumcised. And so Abraham and Ishmael were circumcised on the same day. Isaac was not yet born.
Right.
But when Isaac was born, he also was circumcised on the 8th day. So it's simply the cutting away of the foreskin.
Yeah.
Was a sign that they were in covenant with the Most High. Okay? No other people on the planet were doing that.
Right.
So this was a way for the Most High to say, these people are separate from all other people on the earth. You get it?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay? That's how they separated.
Got you.
Yeah, that's how they separated them. The men being willing. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I didn't understand it at first.
That's why we have the Bible study. Yeah.
I didn't know.
What was the important?
Yeah, that's it.
That's what I'm saying to you. Yes, yes.
That's it. Anybody who's not willing to do that, we're not going to be in fellowship with the Most High. Okay. And it came to pass on the 3rd day, when they were sore, that 2 of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man a sword and came upon the city boldly and slew or killed all the males. They're going door to door, killing every man. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword. And took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. So not only did they kill all the men, but now they're taking all the wealth of the city. They're taking all the animals, right? They took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives took they captive. So you got to keep in mind, this was a nation And these two men have gone in here and spoiled the whole nation. Now, first of all, this is a mighty thing they were able to do with just two men. But the problem is that they've got neighbors, okay? And so, you know, this is going to lead to an issue, right? That Jacob's got to be concerned about. And to spoil even all that was in the house. I mean, they didn't leave nothing that was of value. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. Right? This is a real big concern, right? I mean, because in reality, in the natural, they were no match for the other nations around. You had, you know, the Perizzites, you know, the Jebusites, all the ites were in the land. Their time had not come up yet. The Most High told Abraham, at the end of 400 years, I want you to go in there and spoil them. But until that time comes, until their cup is full, you know, do not mess with them. And so now, you know, these sons have gone in and taken out one of the ites, right? The Hittites, and destroyed them. And so I guarantee you, this is going to be spoken of to all the other surrounding nations. They're going to know what this family, this is not a nation yet. This is a family with 12 sons. Actually 11, Benjamin's not born yet. But, you know, this is just a family who's got to contend with all the nations in this land, okay? And so what is he saying? That, and I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sisters with a harlot? You know, forget about the problem. You're concerned about that. Look what they've done to our sister. You think we're going to let these folk get away with that? They're not even concerned about the big picture. All they wanted was vengeance. Now, I truly believe that it was not the Most High's plan. I mentioned it before, to intermingle with this nation. You know, period. He wanted them to be separated, which, you know, I'll go a little bit further, you know, in the future lesson, which is one of the reasons why their incubator was Egypt. They spent 400 years in Egypt. Why? Because it was an abomination for Egyptians to mingle with these Hebrews. So they were able to spend 400 years in Goshen to be a pure nation. They were not intermarrying with any other outside nation. So the Most High really had Egypt to be an incubator for this nation until they became a great people. You know, so he did not want them intermarrying with these folk, but they could have got away with it. Well, they could have just not struck the bargain. They could have just said, hey, you know what? It's against our religion to intermingle. I appreciate the offer, but we can't do this.
But that shows the malice of their heart.
Exactly. I told you that these brothers are scoundrels. You know, they couldn't find a peaceable way to come out of this situation. You know, they decided to massacre a whole nation. Every man in the city was killed because they defiled their daughter, their sister. And Elohim said unto Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there, and make there an altar unto Elohim that appeared unto thee when thou fled from the face of Esau thy brother. This man has had some difficult times. You know, he's had to face the Most High, afraid that his brother's going to kill him. You know, he was afraid at one point that Laban might overtake him and kill him, and take the daughters and the sons back. You know, he's had a rough life up until this point. And so now, he's concerned that in the natural, you know, he may be days away from being an afterthought. You know, if these nations find out what this man has done, what his sons have done, will they survive the week? You know, they got to figure, if this man is killing nations, we need to kill them before they kill us, right? It says, make there an altar unto Elohim that appeared unto thee when thou fled from the face of Esau, thy brother. Then Jacob said unto his household, and look what's going on here. Jacob said unto his household and to all that were with him, put away the strange gods that are among you.
Oh my.
Now, why are strange gods among his sons? Why would they have strange gods? Jacob says, unto his household and to them, all that were with him, put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments, because you guys are filthy right now. You are filthy and unclean before me and before my Elohim. There.
I have one thing to say to that. Evil communication corrupted men.
We knew when they were coming out of Laban's house that they had issues, because the last thing that Rachel did was steal her father's gods.
Yes, she did.
Right? So they're not completely walking upright before the Most High. They have, Rachel grew up around her father, and he was an idol worshiper. She grew up as an idol worshiper. So these pagan ways were still very prevalent in their minds. And though the 11, they were not taught that by their father, but their mother's influence still affected them, because now he's got to address all of his children, everybody in this group, to get rid of the gods, right? And let us arise, verse 3 says, and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar unto Elohim. I'm not doing that until you guys clean yourselves up, right? I need you to get it together, because I need to approach him. I need to get a prayer through right now, right? I need to know that I can touch his heart, and I'm not getting ready to approach unto my Elohim with a house that is serving false gods. So get clean, family, get clean, right? And let's arise and go up to Bethel, the house of Elohim, what that means, Bethel, house of Elohim, and I will make there an altar unto Elohim, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. He knows who he served. And he's saying, my Elohim has never failed me. And so that's who I serve. But I need you guys to get it right. I need you guys to do what is right, so I can maintain my walk and my relationship with him. So let's do this. And they gave unto Jacob, look at this now, all the strange gods which were in their hands. Every one of them got false gods, and all their earrings which were in their ears. And these were emblems that were representing different gods. And Jacob hid them under the oak which was in Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were round about them. And they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. Now that's a miracle. That is a miracle. They didn't chase after them. They didn't stop and ask them no questions, right? They didn't do anything. They were able to depart that land in peace. And you got to know something. This that we're seeing, this part right here is something that I want our people to really get, because they were able to do something that really should have brought the wrath of the whole community upon them. But they were not able to touch them, because the favor of the Most High, the protection of the Most High, his presence being with them, stopped all the nations around them from doing what was in their heart to do. Because they I guarantee you, all of these ites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, all of these folks were trading once amongst another. They knew each other. They had been dwelling in the lands for hundreds of years. So to have this one family show up all of a sudden and to take out one of their trading partners, I guarantee you, it was in their heart to realize that, man, these people are a problem.
They're going down.
We need to take them out before they end up trying to do the same thing to us that they did to them. I guarantee you this was in the heart of these nations. And so for Jacob to be able to leave out of this land and take his journey, look what it says here, and the terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not dare pursue after the sons of Jacob. I can only imagine he probably showed up in them cities in dreams, gave them visions. It was probably angels there with swords, you know, saying, I dare you to attack my man. You remember what happened with Abimelech? Abimelech had taken Isaac's wife, and he said, in the integrity of my heart have I taken this woman. And he said, I know, that's why I'm talking to you right now. You know, I'm you know, because if you had touched this woman, you would be a dead man in all your household, right? So I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing. And so what did they end up doing? They said, hey, Isaac, here's your wife. You know, she's in peace. I have not touched her. Here's some gold, bruh. Here's some silver. Here's some flocks. All the land is before you. You know, you can have any, you know, you can go anywhere you want to go, right? We will not touch you. And he went to his men and said, I dare any of y'all to touch this man. Anybody that touch this man, he's gonna die. So that's the favor that the patriarchs were walking in. So why am I talking about this? Because here in the United States, we don't experience that. We are on the opposite end of what our walk's supposed to be. We're experiencing the George Floyd syndrome. We get caught up driving while black. We go into stores to shop, and you know the security guards follow us in like shadows, right? Walking while black, right? Shopping while black. All these things we have to deal with, and we don't see the terror of the Most High dealing with our enemies. And so, you know, I'm going way into the future in dealing with this, because we in Genesis, we still got Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers before we get to Deuteronomy. But Deuteronomy 28 is our reality. And I'm not talking about verses 1 through 14. I'm talking about verses 15 through 68 is our reality. This was the heritage that our fathers left us. That even when they did wrong, even though his sons were scoundrels, and they killed a whole nation of people who thought they were doing the right thing by being circumcised, killed and spoiled the whole nation, the other surrounding nations couldn't touch them, couldn't throw a rock at them, couldn't say a cursing word at them, because the favor and the fear of the Most High protected them. So here's my point. A lot of brothers, especially here in the United States, walk with a lot of hatred and anger in their heart. And I understand that there's hatred there. I understand there's anger there. But you got to understand that this country was nothing more than the switch that the Most High used because of the failures of our forefathers. Plain and simple. Now, I will say this. They went overboard. And I was pleased to read in Scripture that the Most High said in the prophets that, yes, I use you as a disciplinary tool for my children. But you got lifted up in pride, and you, Gentiles, took it too far. And for that reason, you will pay for how you abuse my children. It is in verse, and we're going to deal with that when we get to the prophets, of how the Most High said, I am not pleased with how you have treated my children in their, they've been scattered, right? They have been scattered to the four corners of the earth because of their failures to honor me in my word. They chose to follow the way of the pagans, to follow the way of the heathens. They didn't keep my word. And I said that I was going to scatter them and cause them to be the tail and not the head. be below and not above, to be borrowers and not lenders. I did say that, but I didn't tell you guys to do it to the level that you guys have done this. You know, you could have punished my children without going overboard the way that you have. And so this is where we find ourselves, but it is not the end of the story. It is not the end of the story. And I can't wait to get to the book of Deuteronomy, because one of the things he said in Deuteronomy 30, he said, when you come to yourselves, after all these things that I've told you, of the blessings and the cursings have become your reality. Because true enough, I blessed you. I said I was going to bless you, and I did. I blessed you so much that in the days of Solomon, kings were coming from all over the world to just be a partaker of his wisdom. And you know that he struck a relationship with the kings of the earth, that they were coming to pay him tribute every year just to come and be a partaker of his wisdom. So he basically had, he created a system of reoccurring income through his relationship with the kings of the earth. You know, if you want to be a partaker of my wisdom, I am the wisest man on the planet. You can come and visit me every year, bring me your tribute every year, and I will share my wisdom with you. And it wasn't just for them to be hearing stories. He was giving them the wisdom, how they can build up their kingdoms, how they can build up their coffers, how to do business. So I mean, if you can't read Proverbs and not learn how to do business, you know, it would teach you wise principles, wise sayings. And so he was sharing these principles with the kings of the earth. And the man had reoccurring income because they were paying him tribute every year. So that was the highest point of Israel's. And it should have continued. But because he didn't obey the Most High and start getting off and marrying, you know, pagan women, and not only did he marry them, but then allow them to bring their false religion into Israel, right? And he started worshiping false religions. Then, you know, that was the beginning of the end. And so, you know, he had David who served the Most High with all his heart. You had Solomon, who was the wisest and had the final kingdom that was united. And then when his son Jeroboam took over, or Rehoboam, his son took over, the kingdom split. Jeroboam went into the north with 10 tribes. Rehoboam was in the south with 2.5 tribes. And you know, Judah and Benjamin and half of the Levi tribe in the south. And they have not been joined together since. And so one of the prophecies it talks about how the nations shall become one in his hand again. So that means all 12 tribes that have been scattered to the four corners of the earth will once again be joined together in his hand. And he told Ezekiel, get me 2 sticks, right? Give me a stick for Joseph, and get me a stick for Judah, and bring them together. And those 2 sticks are going to become one in my hand. And David shall be their ruler. And when you talk about David, that's a prophecy of Yeshua, the son of David, being the king over Israel. That day is coming. It has not come yet. And so we have a situation now where there is a people that's in Israel right now. They are political Israel, but they are not spiritual Israel. They're not the biblical Israel. They have adopted the faith, and they adopted the faith primarily because they recognize when they interview the Catholic Church and when they interview the Muslims, and they ask each one of them individually, who would you choose? Who has the most truth between the Muslim? He asked a Catholic, who has the most truth between the Muslim and Jewish religion? And the Catholic said the Jewish religion. And so he asked the Muslim, who has the most truth out of the Catholics and the Jewish religion? And the Muslim said the Jewish religion. So both of them recognized that the greatest truth came from the Torah. And so that's why the Khazar people, who they were originally Khazars, chose to become Jews. And so they were actually trained and developed by real Hebrews. But unfortunately, they're not acknowledging the fact that they are adopted into this faith. They are acting as if they're the true descendants of Abraham. That's what's so unfortunate, because they're not acknowledging the true people of the book, which are those of us that have been brought over here in ships, fulfilling Deuteronomy 28. I'm getting way ahead of myself on this, but I just feel like we need to deal with this. I'm just laying a foundation for what's going to be coming in the book of Deuteronomy. And so I want you guys to understand that the terror of Elohim that is upon Jacob right now and upon his sons to protect him from the surrounding nations, that could have been our heritage. It should have been our heritage, but we lost that because our forefathers chose not to walk uprightly. I mean, look at this now. When Jeroboam, the prophet came to Jeroboam after the Most High decided, I'm taking part of this kingdom away from Solomon. He has messed up so bad with all these wives. He got 1,000 women from all these pagan nations and allowed them to bring their pagan gods into the kingdom. He has failed so miserably. And I'm taking 10 of the tribes away from him, and I'm going to give them to Jeroboam. And the prophet came to Jeroboam and said, listen, if you will honor me and walk uprightly, I will establish your kingdom the same way I established the kingdom to David. Now, you can't get a greater promise than that, because David's promise was so great that he told him the Messiah is going to come through your lineage. And so he told Jeroboam, all you got to do is walk uprightly before me, and I'm going to bless you, man. I'm going to bless you. And so when Jeroboam finally got the kingdom, after the death of Solomon, the kingdom split. 10 of the 12 tribes went to the north with Jeroboam, and the first thing he did was made golden calves and said, these be your gods. And his sin in Israel was so great that the Most High changed his name. He said, you sin like your father Jeroboam, who made Israel sin. That became his name. Instead of being Jeroboam, who I called out because Solomon failed me and I was going to establish his kingdom, he became Jeroboam, who made Israel sin. And he got that name because he started Israel, those 10 tribes who became Israel, down a path of sinning that they never deviated from. They stayed on that track. Ahab came behind him. All these different ones came behind him, and they never deviated from the sin that he led them down. Changed feast days, changed the priesthood. And he just did so many horrific things because he chose not to honor the Most High. And so that's what caused our people to end up in a state where the Most High said, okay, because you guys are choosing not to serve me, I'm taking my hands off. And just like I delighted in blessing you, I'm going to delight in cursing you. Just like I was prepared to be a blessing and a terror to your enemies, I'm removing my hands from it. And I'm going to let your enemies come in and spoil you. You're going to marry a wife, and she's going to be laying with another man. Right? You're going to plant vineyards, and somebody else is going to drink of the grape. And so this is the plight that here in 2023, the Hebrew people find themselves in because they got so far away from the Most High. And so one of the reasons why I'm teaching these lessons is because I want our people to recognize who they are and what the Most High has in store for them. Because I want to get to where Deuteronomy 30 is our reality. When you return, when all these things have happened unto you, the blessings and the cursing, and I'll scatter you to the four corners of the earth. And then it comes to your mind that all these things I said to you have come to pass, and you return to me, right? Once you return to me, he said, then I'm going to cause you to be greater than the fathers. And who are the fathers? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, David, Daniel, all these great men that we're going to be learning about. They are the patriarchs. They are the fathers. And the Most High is desiring in the last days to cause our days to be greater than even the fathers. So we got to learn about him. We got to make our mind up that we're going to begin to serve him, turn from paganism. And I want you to know right now, the present day churchianity is full of paganism. It is full of paganism. So we have to get back to the Bible. We have to get back to the scriptures. And if you're doing something that you can't find a verse of scripture to justify what you're doing, then you need to stop doing it. And I guarantee you right now, Ishtar worship that they call in the United States Easter, you need to let it go. And this Christ Mass that comes up on December 25th, there's no scripture in the Bible that tells us to worship him and to have a special day for his birthday. That is not even his birthday. That is, Nimrod's son's birthday. That is his birthday, Tammuz, right? And even the children of Israel, I think it's in the book of Ezekiel, talk about him weeping for Tammuz. So you got to understand the origins of all these pagan holidays. It's not okay to do something because it's traditional that we do. When they came up with Christmas, the first time they came up with Christmas, the church rejected that. They said, this is not of the Most High. They rejected it. But it wasn't until they just kept hammering it, that eventually the church chose to accept it. All right, let's see what's going on here. All right, we got a what? So what's the what about? What's the question about? You have to type it in the chat. Okay, because there's holidays. If you're talking about the holidays, there's some pagan holidays that we should not be keeping. December 25th is not Jesus' birthday. That's what I'm talking about. He was not born on December 25th. That is Tammuz's birthday, the son of Nimrod. That is not Jesus Christ's birthday. There's nowhere in scripture you'll find that December 25th as being Jesus' birthday. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. We need to get away from those pagan holidays. All right. All right. Any other questions? There's another question pop up. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, you'd be amazed. Here's what happened. During the time of Rome was just about to fall apart. And so Rome had to try to come up with a new way to keep their nation together. Political Rome was a mess. Nero Caesar had started a fire and destroyed most of the Roman Empire, the buildings. And so he began to blame a lot of the fire. He blamed the fire on the Christians. He said they're responsible for this fire that's happening. And so it became very unpopular to become a Christian, to be a Christian during Nero's administration. And he began to burn them at the stake, feed them to lions, had theater where they would take Christian women and rape them in public theater. So like they got X-rated movies today. Well, basically back then, they would have Romans raping, Christian women in public as a form of entertainment. And so it was horrific to be a Christian during Nero Caesar's reign. So, but eventually Rome began to really crumble, and it got to the place where they couldn't, as much as they were persecuting the Christians, they couldn't get rid of them. You kill 10 and 100 would get saved. You kill 100 and 1,000 will get saved, because the people weren't going to the stake crying and saying, it's not worth me dying for. They were going glad, because they knew to live is Christ and to die is gain. They believed in it. They embraced that. And so they had no problem in being martyrs for the Most High, because they knew the story of the 11 disciples that lived and spent 40 days with the Most High after his resurrection. They knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he had conquered death. And he already told them, as I am, shall you be. And so this was the message. This is what was called for people to be killed as Christians, because they believed in the resurrection of Yeshua. And so belief in that meant that I have no problem dying for something that's greater than my life. If I die for him, I'm going to experience a greater life than I ever had when I was living, right? And so because they kept persecuting the church kept growing. Rome then had to try to come up with another plan. And so basically, once Constantine came into power, about 300 AD, he said, we have got to infiltrate this Christian thing. And so he's in war, and he came and said, I had a vision from God, and we are to conquer in the name of God and and by the symbol of his cross. And so he put the cross on their shields, put crosses on their uniforms, and claimed themselves to be Christians. And they began to conquer in the name of Christ. Now, there is nowhere in Scripture that Yeshua said he's going to build his church through war, through conquering nations and forcing them to become Christian. That is not what the Most High said. But that's how the Catholic Church began to grow, through the Crusades. And so eventually they had the Council of Nicene, and at the Council of Nicene, they had to try to come together and formulate a Christian doctrine that they wanted everybody to be following. And one of the first things they did, because they had at the council table people who worship different forms of religion. And the greatest religion being worshiped was a sun god worship, because the sun was the most powerful and the biggest thing in all creation that you will see. You look up in the sky, and that's the greatest thing. It brought warmth. It caused everything to grow. It was one of the most important things in all of creation. So they worshiped the sun, and the second thing that was being worshipped was the moon. And so they brought these people to the table. And so the sun worshipers worshiped on what day? Sunday. And so one of the first things they did at the Council of Nicene was eliminate Sabbath keeping and converted the day to Sunday worship, the first day of the week. Because for almost 400 years after the death, burial, and resurrection of Yeshua, they were still going to church. They were still going to the synagogue on the Sabbath day. We see that in the book of Acts. And so it was not until the Catholic Church infiltrated the church that they then eventually changed the day from the Sabbath to Sunday, okay? And so the church that you see today is not representing what the Most High desired for his church, because in 6 days the Most High created the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that in them dwell. And on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. That's chapter 2 of the book. So how do we get so far away from what the Most High is doing? If the Most High works for 6 days and rest on the seventh day, how is that we're going to work 5 days and rest on the first day of the week? We're not even keeping his day, right? So we got to get away from that. All right, so there's a question. She'd like to know what holiday we should celebrate and ones we shouldn't. That's real simple. That's real simple. What day should we be keeping? It's in Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23. And when you look at Leviticus 23, he says, tell the children of Israel of my feast days, because these are my feast days. Who's saying that? Who's talking? The Most High is talking to Moses to tell the children of Israel, these are my feast days. And what's the first one? Seventh, the Sabbath. That's his first one. And then what's the next 7? his annual feast days, starting with Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, Feast of Trumpets, Yom Kippur, and the Feast of Ingathering, right? Those are his feast days. You can read about all of them in Leviticus 23. And why are they so important? Because those annual feast days literally unveil the whole plan of salvation. The whole plan of salvation is told in those 7 feast days. Yeshua was the Passover lamb.
Mhm.
He's the Passover lamb. And so that's why you see the blood throughout all scripture, starting with Adam. You have that blood. Without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sin. Why? Because the first annual feast day points to the time when the Lamb of Elohim shall take away the sins of the world. And so Passover is first. And then you have unleavened bread. Why unleavened bread? Because Yeshua is what? The bread of life. And what does it mean to be unleavened? It means to be sinless. So he was a sinless, spotless sacrifice. So he was our Passover lamb who was sinless, the sinless bread. And then what's the third one? First fruits. Why is he the first fruits? Because the book tells us he's the firstborn from the dead. He became our first fruits, right? He's the first fruit because he represents being born again from the dead. And then the next feast day is Pentecost. And so what is Pentecost? Why is it so important? Because Pentecost represents the day when, first of all, there's two major events happen. The 10 Commandments was given on Pentecost, and it came with fire, on a mountain, fire was coming and it was shaking, and it was great sound and noise when he gave the 10 Commandments. And then secondly, in the book of Acts, when the Holy Spirit came, what happened? There was another sound, right? Same way it came the first time, a sound of a mighty rushing wind. And then he gave them the Holy Spirit, which did what? Seal the commandments on our heart and on our mind. So at the first event, he gave them the commandments written on stones and on tablets. And when it was fulfilled, he wrote the commandments on our hearts and on our minds. That's Pentecost. And so you can see the full plan of salvation is unfolding on each. That's just the first 4. And the first 4 have been fulfilled. The last 3 are still waiting to be fulfilled. And so what's the next one that has to be fulfilled? The Feast of Trumpets. Now, what does the church always talk about? They talk about the church being raptured at the sound of the trumpet, right? Which the Bible does not teach a rapture, right? We're going to deal with that. I don't have time to deal with it today, but we are going to deal with that. We're going to show you clearly in Scripture what takes place. But on the Feast of Trumpets, it is an annual feast. And on the annual feast, there is 100 trumpet blasts, 99 specific blasts. And then on the 100th, it's the great blast. It is the great sound of the trumpet. And so the Bible says what? At the sound of the last trump, right? The dead in Christ are going to rise. And we who are alive and remain shall be caught together with him in the air. And so shall we ever be with Mashiach. But guess what? The church talks about, and I see that hand, the church talks about the last trumpet, but they don't even know about the Feast of Trumpets. I dare you to go to church on Sunday and ask 10 people, 2 people in the congregation, what's the Feast of Trumpets? And they're not going to even know. But what if the Most High has his plan to gather his people together on the Feast of Trumpets. And here's what you got to understand. The feast days, the Hebrew word for it is moed, moedim, which is an appointment. It is an appointed time. It is an appointment between us and the Most High. So I have a question for you. I'm gonna allow you to ask your question. If you have a doctor's appointment 12 noon on Monday, and you show up 3 p.m. on Wednesday, what's the likelihood of you getting serviced?
Not much.
Not very good. Because why? You missed your appointment. You missed your appointment. Right? So the Most High, he said, when he told Moses in Leviticus 23, these are my feast days, these are my moedim, he's saying, these are my appointments. Keep my feast days. They are holy convocations. They are holy gatherings for my people. And if you fail to keep those appointments, then you're failing to keep your covenant with the Most High, and you will miss out. Man, I am.
And not just that, if they don't, these times that he has us doing these are like rehearsals.
Yes.
We are to rehearse so that we'll know what to do when those times come.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Because part of the definition of Moedim is to be a rehearsal. And so why do people who do movies and people who act on stage, why do they have rehearsals? So that when it's time for the curtain to rise, they know what they're doing, right? They're on cue, right? They're doing everything when they're supposed to do it, where they're supposed to do it, at the time they're supposed to do it.
Right.
So what we're doing every year, he gave us 7 annual rehearsals, 7 annual feast days. Easter is not one of them. Christmas is not one of them. Thanksgiving Day is not one of them. I don't have a problem with, keeping Thanksgiving, but it's not one of his feast days, right? July 4th, is not one of his feast days. Brother, you had a question. Go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do New Year's mean? If it ain't no Christmas, what is New Year's?
We have, actually in Hebrew, they have it's like a spiritual New Year, and then they have somewhat of a political New Year. The spiritual New Year takes place at Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur, which is the last feast day we had, where we gave confessions and all that, that is when our New Year is.
When it starts.
It's when it starts. Our New Year's, that's when our New Year's start at Yom Kippur. And that's when we wish everybody a happy New Year. Mm-hmm. This annual New Year's at January 1st, that has nothing to do with the Hebrew people. It has nothing to do with the Hebrew people. That's the world. See, you gotta understand, the world has a system that has nothing at all to do with the Most High. The world system is all designed and was created to create diversions, if you will, right? To try to bring the Most High's people away from his way of doing things and to begin to do things the way that the devil wants us to do them. Because keep in mind, the world is the devil's domain. Mm-hmm. And he has many different devices that he has created to try to get the Most High's people off track. And based upon scripture, he's affected because the scriptures say the whole world lies in wickedness. That's one verse of scripture. Another verse of scripture says Satan deceives the whole world. Now that's a lot.
Ooh, that's deep.
He deceives the whole world. The whole world lies in wickedness. And so that's why the scriptures say that it is a very narrow road that leads to salvation, and only a few people find it, because it is a broad way, wide gate that lead to destruction,
Mhm.
and many people find it. And somebody asked me one time, what percentage of the people do you believe is going to end up in the devil's hell? And I'm telling you right now, 90%. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if 9 out of 10 people are going to miss the mark. Right? 9 out of 10 people are going to miss the mark. Go ahead, Terry.
Not just miss the mark, those 9, 10, 9, the 90% that we're talking about is because it's a few things that definitely has happened in the last century or so. You know, people have lost faith in the church because the people that are head of the church have done so much to make the church look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so that their way to even have a relationship with the Most High was through the church. They never thought about having one-on-one personally with themselves.
Boy.
So they lost their relationship. You know, they looked at the church, they looked at the leaders, and so because of that, now they're looking at all of this other stuff, you know, what you call it, stones and
let me comment on that, because you're right, you're 100% right on that, right? But you got to understand that what the church is doing is by design.
I believe that.
It is by design. Why? Because one of the things that Yeshua said, he said, is a parable he gave in I think it's Matthew 13 and Mark 4. The sower sows the word.
Mm-hmm.
And then later he went on and said, the sower sowed good seed in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then the enemy came and sowed bad seed among the good seed.
Mm-hmm.
And so his workers came and said, should we go and pluck up the tares so that the wheat can grow? And Yeshua said, no, let them both grow together. Let them both grow together, you know, because you don't know that if you be plucking up the tares, you may pull up the wheat because they look exactly the same. He said, let them grow together. And then at the time of the harvest, he will pluck up the tares, put them in bundles, and then cast them in the fire. So you have that situation with the wheat and the tare. What's another situation? You have wolves among the sheep. So in that situation, that means now, and I see that hand, you have caretakers that are among the sheep pretending to be leadership for the Most High that are really on a mission for the devil. In fact, Corinthians talks about the fact that Satan himself appears as an angel of light, and even so, he has his ministers to be ministers of light. Mm-hmm. So Satan has leadership among the church who is on a mission to teach a wrong message to get his people, the Most High's people, off track. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, like you just said, like you put this seed with that seed and it look alike, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you got a good twin and a bad twin, right?
Not so much that. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's not that they're co-mingling. It's just they could be in the same building at the same time.
Okay.
You know, you can have a church and you can have one bench and you can have one person that's there that has a sincere heart, mm-hmm. and you got another person on the same bench that they're there for no good.
Okay.
Right. So you got wheat and you got tares in the same place. Okay. That makes sense. Go ahead.
So let's just say all of the leadership are not wicked, but you do have, but the scriptures talk about teachers out there that are willing to scratch the itching ears.
Yeah, teachers having itching ears,
you know,
to teach just for the sake of drawing people to them,
right?
Not for the purpose of training them to be right, but just to give them a nice sugar-coated message that'll make them feel good, right? They'll feel good, they support the ministry, but they're not learning anything they need to have a real relationship with the Most High. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole lot of preachers that's doing that. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem.
It's a problem.
That's a problem. There was a comment in there, yes, the Sabbath day is the seventh day. Saturday is the proper Sabbath, not Sunday. So this is the second time that's come up, and it was requested a couple of weeks ago that we do a lesson on that, and I will be doing a lesson on that soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it at the end of Genesis, and we're right near the end of Genesis, or at the most I may lead me to do something a little different. We'll see. But I'm going to be doing a lesson on the Sabbath and why it is so important. And when you see the scriptures that support Sabbath keeping and what the Most High's attitude is about those who don't keep it, you're gonna run from going to church on Sunday. You're gonna be quick to just say, hey, what? I'm giving up my membership. I am not going to church on Sunday. That is not the Most High's day. Ezekiel, he makes it clear that the Sabbath. He talked about people dishonoring his Sabbath day. And the curses that's going to come as a result of it, we're going to sure enough deal with that. Okay. So, man, I tell you, we had to deal with a lot of stuff, but this verse right here prompted that for me, and they journeyed, and the terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. As bad as what they did was, the Most High said, these are my people. I don't care. Yeah, they probably shouldn't have killed a whole nation of people. They killed the king. They killed the prince. They robbed all the people. They done took slaves. They took every piece of gold and silver and all the animals. They spoiled the whole nation. They probably shouldn't have done that. But guess what? I'm not done with them.
They had purpose.
Yes, they still got purpose with me. So I know y'all might be angry. I know y'all lost a trading partner. I know y'all probably, exchanging wives and all that stuff and doing business. I know you're mad, but you can't touch my people. Touch not my anointing. Do my prophets no harm. I still have purpose for these folk. You ain't getting ready to touch them. And they didn't say boo to Jacob. They didn't throw a rock at him. They didn't give him a bad stare. They dare not do nothing to make him feel uncomfortable. Because I guarantee you, the Most High sent his angels on assignment, and they went to these nations and said, do it if you want to. I bet some of them guys saw angels with flaming swords, right? Because I remember one time you had, it was Elisha and his servant. And they looked up one day and they were surrounded by the enemy. And Gehazi said, alas, my Lord, the enemy, they're here. And Elijah was like, right? And then he said, Most High, open up his eyes that he might see that those that be for us are way more than those that be against us. And he opened up the eyes, and all he saw, as far as his eyes could see, were horses and chariots of fire and angels with flaming swords. And then Elisha said, smite these men with blindness. And so he smote them with blindness. I mean, he ain't had to fight. He smote them with blindness. And then he went to the leader of the military. He said, what's the problem? He said, man, we can't see. And he said, have one man put his hand on the other man's shoulder, and I will lead you to where you need to go. And so they did that, and he marched them in right into the heart of Israel's military. And then he said, Most High, open up their eyes. And then he looked around, and they were surrounded by Israel's military. And then the captain of Israel's military said, my Lord, shall we go a slaying today? In other words, should we be cutting throats? And he said, no, let them go. They know better than to mess with us. And they were able to leave them alone, say, y'all better go to your home in peace. And they didn't mess with them no more. They said, why are we going to go mess with them folk? And they got a God that's so powerful that he can strike us with blindness. That's the Most High that we serve. So here's a question you should be asking yourself. If the Most High operated that way with his people in past, I'm Brother Gideon. You said I'm
beast of the
It's hard for me to deal with this right now. I mean, it's almost an emotional thing for me right now, because he asked the question, if you say that the Most High is with us, where is all his miracles? And why have all these things befallen us? Why is all this stuff happening to us right now? And the reason why I was going on with Gideon, because they failed the Most High and they were serving false gods. And one of the first things he had to do before he took over was to go and destroy his father's false gods. And when they got up the next day and saw the false gods were killed, they said, who in the world did this? Nobody but Gideon. And they wanted to kill Gideon. They said, hey, his father said, how you gonna kill Gideon? If your God is all that, then let your God deal with Gideon. Right? Don't go mess with him. If your God was all powerful, then he should have protected himself.
If your God is God.
Yes, right?
That part.
So he said, leave him alone. Let him be who he is. And Gideon was able to bring deliverance to the children of Israel. So, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. I want to see our people set free. I am ushering in a time where Deuteronomy 30 become our reality. Once we return back to the Most High, back to his Torah, back to his appointed times, back to his feast days, back to his Sabbath, right? Back to his dietary laws, so we can be, vessels that are clean and have honor, right? And it's not that keeping the law does not make us saved. It's not about that. He gave us Torah so we can live a full life. I'm gonna give you an example, and we gotta get ready to wrap this thing up today. In the United States, among Christian people, women have greater situations of cervical cancer and cancer in their body and in their mammaries than any other nation on the planet. And you may ask, why? And it's because we do not keep Torah. Because there is a law of Nida, it's called a law of Nida, that says that when a woman first spots, for women who are still of childbearing age, when they begin to spot, they become holy and should not be touched until they complete that cycle. And here in the United States, you still have people that are going into their spouses during that season. And what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to let that woman alone, allow her to be holy, and allow her to go through that process, and so that her body can become completely flushed and cleansed naturally. But because men and women are coming together at a time when that woman should be holy, then her body is not being cleansed properly, and therefore she's having situations of cervical cancer, having to have, hysterectomies, and all these different things are going on in her body. Why? Because they're not keeping Torah. Because the Most High gave the woman that instruction to keep your body holy during those days. Do not allow the man to come in unto you until after that 8-day period has been completed. And if there is still blood showing, then you got to extend it beyond that until that season is completed. That is an instruction of Torah. Now, those who's not in Torah probably never even heard of that before. But that's the Most High saying, I want our women to have long life and to be able to prosper. And so the Torah is not about do's and don'ts. The Torah is not about, I don't want you to have fun. The Torah is about you living a full, complete life. Why don't he want you eating pig? What would you say if of a person who would go and vacuum their whole house, take the vacuum cleaner ingredients, right, take it apart, get all that junk out of the vacuum cleaner, put it in a pot, boil it with water, put some salt and pepper on it, and call that soup. Right? You would look at that person and say, are you out of your mind? I'm not getting ready to eat that. That's a vacuum cleaner. That's the waste from a vacuum cleaner. Well, guess what? The Most High gave the planet vacuum cleaners. A pig eats everything that crosses his path, right? He eats every unclean thing. The vulture is not a bird to eat. Why? because the vulture lives on a dead carcass, right? It rids the ground of dead things, right? What does shrimp do? It is a bottom feeder. What does a crab do? It is a bottom feeder. It keeps the water clean so that the clean fish, those with scales, will have a clean environment so that when you eat it, you're not eating the junk that's in the water. Because the snails and the crabs and all those things are there by design to keep the environment clean. So the Most High says, don't eat those things that are unclean, no more than you would eat the stuff in a vacuum cleaner. No, you know, and so, you know, he's doing it for your good. He's doing it for your good. So the question is, what happens to the man's body? Well, nothing happens to the man's body. The law of Nidar was designed for the woman. It's not designed for the man. The man doesn't have a cycle, right? The man can go, you know, 365 days a year and not have a problem. It is the woman that has that season where she's to be set apart and holy for those 8 days because of how her body was created. So the man has a responsibility to honor the woman during the law of Nidar. That's important. He's supposed to honor her, not to be, you know, going in and defiling her during that time. Okay. All right. What you got, something, Terry?
The thing that the man gets out of it is learning how to be disciplined.
Yes.
How to control his body, how not to be led away by the feeling of, I just got to have something
Correct.
right now,
Correct.
right now, because there's a lot of men that when their wives go on the cycle, they got a honeydew on the side.
Exactly.
And they go see the honeydew and be like, oh, I'll check you out when things are straight.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's a problem. And the Most High, oh man, I tell you, we got to wrap this thing up, but this is getting serious, right? When a man learns self-control, it is amazing what it does for the relationship. When a man learns how to honor his wife, and especially during that cycle, when, you know, it's amazing when you know that, you know, you have this season of restriction, it does something to your desire. You know, you do tend to desire what you can't have, right? And so when you learn how to have that self-discipline, then once that period is over and you come back together again, it makes it even greater than it was before. So the Most High knows what he is doing, you know, right? When he's teaching that man to be disciplined and to honor his spouse and to not be having, you know, side pieces and all that stuff, but learn how to walk in honor with your spouse. And he will cause that relationship to grow stronger and greater. And I'm talking from experience because in November, it is 40 years of marriage for me. 40 years of marriage, and I've not had a side piece in my 40 years of marriage. And I learned how to honor my wife during the law of Nidar. Right? Hopefully that's making sense. I got some folks saying that makes sense to me. Good stuff, right? So that's what you got to do. You know, you have to honor, you know, your spouse. Brothers, you need to learn self-control. You know, all these Hebrew camps is talking about having, you know, 2 and 3 and 4 wives. You know, later for that foolishness. Later for that. I already showed you from last week's lesson that Jacob having these 4 women, it was nothing but chaos. Chaos. You know, and we're not done with Jacob yet. You know, it's going to create problem between the children as a result of it. So it's not worth it. It's just not worth it, saints. Listen, we got a bonus 15 today. Hopefully y'all got something out of this today. But I love teaching about the patriarchs. It has so many deep lessons in it. And if we take the time to dissect it and to learn from it, it will make our lives to be better, lives to be greater. All right. So I pray that you got something out of this. We will have this ready to go. It will be dropped on YouTube Tuesday at 11 a.m. Tuesday at 11 a.m. It will drop sharp. So, you know, get a chance to hear the replay. If there's something you might have missed or something you need to hear over again, we will get a chance to deal with that. So, saints, I want to encourage all of you to get a chance to again, support the YouTube channel. That is Dr. Russ E. Hoover on the YouTube channel. Get a chance to support it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button when you get a chance to watch these videos. That just means hit that thumbs up, meaning that you like it. Also get a chance to share with others. And feel free to leave comments, or if you watch this again and you get a question, if you put a question in a comment, I will respond in that comment to those questions, okay? All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Somebody said they came late, but got a lot out of it. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. All right, so we're going to get ready to pray out, and we're going to be done for the day. Simply just give you a round of benediction. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift his countenance upon you and give you what? Shalom, peace. Nothing missing, nothing broken, and nothing lacking. All right, saints. And remember now, greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. And also, I've cheated. I read the end of the book, and this is one thing I discovered. We win, and the devil loses. All right, saints. This is Dr. Russ E. Hoover. Till next time, we're signing off. Shalom.